Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder and see what is kind of the best route to take to get to Mythic or top 250 Mythic or whatever goal you might have. So this video we're going to look at both Explorer Best of 1 through Untapped data as well as some Explorer Best of 3 decks that did well at a recent 100+ person tournament. For the untapped stats for best of 3 is basically Greasefang and like Mono Green Stompy, but it's a very small population size, so it's kind of niche. I don't really want to draw conclusions too much from that, where we had a fairly large 100-person tournament where folks were competing for money, which usually brings out a little bit more competitiveness. So like I said, we're getting the best of 1 data from Untapped GG, companion tool that runs alongside Arena Client. What you see on the screen tracks win rates, loss rates, whole bunch of cool functionality. Link is in the video description down below if you want to get started with that for free. And then I will paste all these deck lists so you can easily import them should you like. If you're looking for standard, Explorer, sorry, this is Explorer, Historic. I have separate videos that come out each week. I apologize for some of the delays this week. My day job is making me work a ton of hours and there's just not enough time in the day to get through everything. So I'm trying to get these out as quick as possible. So going into Explorer Best of 1, we're looking October 20th through the 27th, 32,000 games of Magic played, Platinum to Mythic. And again, for the second week in a row, Mono Blue Spirit's top performing deck. I am doing my part to help bring down this win rate. I played this yesterday as I was trying to go up to top 1500 or top 1200. I kept drawing literally I played 5 games, I think. 2 of the games I drew 3 Faceless Havens and then 1 Island and just couldn't play the game. But this deck is very powerful, and the kind of tweak that we're seeing in the deck is going down on the number of counter spells. There's only 6 hard counters in this particular list, but you're getting 6 Curious Obsession style effects. Combat Research, adding an additional copy to kind of play into there. This deck's pretty good at controlling Greasefang. You have counters, you have ways to tap down with Shacklegeist, you have Slip Out the Back that can be used proactively as well. The Mausoleum Wander, I caught a couple people just not reading the text of the cards. Countered a Collected Company with this while it was out, and it kind of scales late game as well when you have multiple copies of Supreme Phantom on the board. Kind of the games, I find if you can sneak in a Rattle Chains and protect it, it just changes the entire complexity of the game. Being able to play out pretty much all your spells at instant speed goes a long way. It lets you hold up mana, lets you be proactive, as well as stuff like that. Notably, the line, if you have like a 1-drop and then a Curious Obsession style effect and Geist Snare, you can equip on turn 1 and then protect it with the 1 mana up because of the cost reduction of Geist Snare. So a very powerful deck. Has a little bit of an issue playing from behind, but when you can get like the Shacklegeist going or stuff like that, I did find into the Angels matchup, it could have a bit of a difficulty, at least with this configuration. They can get enough like flying bodies on the board that you can attack in to keep drawing cards. So if you don't have the Shacklegeist, it makes it a little bit difficult there. Also, you're not really interacting with like removal or stuff, so they can gain a lot of life. We then go to Mono Red Aggro, 63%. This is a deck that's been working for others. I always get queued up into Greasefang when I play variations of Mono Red, and I feel like it's got a bad Greasefang matchup. This version is just going as linear as possible. 4 Embercleave, 3 Torbrand, 4 Annex. No Ferocidon for anti-life gain synergy. The kind of core 2-drop package of Burning Tree Emissary, Karizev, Robber the Rich. This version is going the 4 Fanatical Firebrand. So your only real removal in this deck is you got Fanatical and Bone Crusher. These can stack to deal with a Greasefang. And like if you're on the draw and they kind of play like that. Kumano is very good in this deck, kind of making your things bigger. But this one is like all in cleave, very important. 24 lands. People always think mono red deck, let's skip on lands. We don't need lands, anything like that. This isn't a Sly deck. This isn't like 1-drop tribal. This isn't like a Bosch mono red where the deck's a Bosch like 21 drops and then like a couple 3-drops. You need to hit your curve. I've played thousands of games, like at least 1,000 games with mono red and Historic, which is a lot of the core elements are the same. 24 is that sweet spot, especially if you're going to Embercleave and Torbrand in the deck. This deck is actually, people are playing my deck. from a while ago. And I'm going to say this deck here, I tweaked it and people are still playing a little bit of a dated version. So they're calling it Mono Black Devotion on tap. This is my Mono Black mid-range deck. It is kind of the elements of Rakdos with cleaner mana, but also just more built for the best of one meta, and meaning like just having answers to Greasefang. And the Rakdos deck is very good in best of 3 because you can kind of tailor your sideboard in that. So the biggest thing, like you can see, I played this deck a month ago. I am 12 and 3 with it, and then I have a couple 7-0s in the event with it. The biggest change that I did was I cut the Sorin, I cut the Bloodchief Thirst for a Heartless Act and a Swamp. Thirst isn't that good in the format right now because you need instant speed removal oftentimes. So this takes us up to 4 instant speed answers to Greasefang and 2-drop slot, and then 3 Murderous Rider. And then depending on what they're doing, you can also have the Fatal Push as well. There's a Field of Ruin. I went to 25 lands, 24 was too little. I was missing line drops. If I continue to play this deck, the only other consideration I'd make is this likely isn't a Liliana deck. All things considered, I would probably just cut the Liliana at this point and then go up another Tenacious Underdog and then maybe keep the Sorin in there or go up another Invoke Despair. The reason being, the meta is very aggressive. You have mono blue, which it's not going to do too much against. Mono red, they have a lot of things to sack. And then you're looking at like Absent Greasefang. It's not really going to do much. You're going to help their strategy and stuff like that. So not really like the approach I would go, but basically the deck, you got a lot of removal. Sleeper on 1 is really great. Even just sinking mana into drawing cards. I've won many games with just soloing with Sweeper or Sleeper. You got your Thoughtseize Fatal Push package in there, and Invoke Despair. It helps you clean up the rest. I think I clicked I just clicked mono red twice. Just like another variation of mono red where they're just playing like different numbers, but that shouldn't have been in there. Then we have Abzan Greasefang, 57% win rate. So this is kind of the graveyard deck. This deck, Liliana, makes a bit more sense because you want to put cards into your graveyard. You have Rafine's Informant. Just lots of ways to put cards in your graveyard and then bring it back with Greasefang so any of your vehicles get haste and can attack right away. Something that came up when I was doing coverage for the Explorer tournament on the weekend, you could Thoughtseize yourself. So if you have Parhelion in hand, you can Thoughtseize yourself to get it back. This is kind of the defining deck, I'd say, of the format right now. You need to be able to deal with Greasefang at some angle or race them. And the thing is with racing, they can do this on turn 3. Technically on turn 2 if they mill over the right cards with Citrus Supplier and you have Can't Stay Awake in hand. But this is a deck that does need to be on your kind of radar in terms of how you're playing it out. And then lastly, in terms of win rate, we have Selesnya Angels. So this is a life gain synergy deck. This is Resplendent Angel, the 3 mana, 3/3. If you gain 5 or more life for the turn, create a 4/4 Angel token with Vigilance, and for 6 mana you can pump it and it gains lifelink. But this deck here is just about gaining life. Really clean 4-ofs in this list. Everything kind of gains life or plays into the synergy of making Angels. Collected Company to pull the deck together, and then a Johnny Strength of the Pride as a one-sided board wipe to sweep the board. I think that was it. Let me just check if anything else for best of 1. Yeah, Mono Green Stompy at 50%, not that great. Rakdos Sacrifice, the meta kind of shifted and it's left it behind, 45%. Just kind of variations of Greasefang in here that are coming up. So in terms of best of 3, there was the Pizza Box Open hosted by Hollywood Pizza this past weekend. It was 116 people that enrolled. There was 100 plus that showed up. I actually casted the top 8 with HamHawk42, another content creator. It's actually a really great tournament. So kind of showing the distribution of decks here. And if you're interested in seeing, I'll link it. The top 8 that's up on my YouTube channel if you want to watch the gameplay of it. Hollywood Pizza puts on free tournaments 3 times a month, varied formats, usually standard Explorer each week. Cash prizes for them as well. You play online through MTG Melee, so it's all your arena account. I'll link those if you're interested, or just drop me a comment, stuff like that. But they're really fun, especially if you're just looking for content. So Rakdos was the most prominent deck of the field, followed by Azorius Control and Mono Red. So this is Explorer best of 3. Abzan combo is Greasefang. Enigmatic is the 5-color deck. The 5-color Enigmatic Incarnation deck. Then you got like some sacrifices and stuff like that. So if we look at the actual results, Rakdos Midrange, the most represented deck, 21% of the field, had slightly just above 50% win rate. At one point during the day, it was the high 60s, but as the further rounds went through, this is naturally going to get whittled down since there's such representation. Of the top 8, only one deck was Rakdos. Azorius Control, pretty low win rate. However, we had one player go fairly far into the tournament. The standout decks like Spirits had a really good showing. There weren't a huge amount of players, but those who did show up did well. We have like Mono Green Aggro had a decent showing. We have Mono Green Planeswalkers, which won the whole thing. That had a good showing. So there's a couple good decks that stood out, but feels like for the most part, a lot of people brought Rakdos, but were kind of meted against in that sense. Mono Red, unfortunately, not a great deck in best of 3. So looking at the top 8, and I'll link this, you can go and highlight each deck, you can download them, they're all here. But the top performing deck, or the winning deck, they went perfect, I believe, throughout the whole thing, was Mono Green Planeswalkers. So this deck here is basically a port of the Devotion list in the Pioneer format, so we don't have Nykthos, but this deck here is just generating a lot of mana and then using Karn for a Wishboard package to find specific items. Really good kind of gameplay from this. The player, Paul, did a really good job navigating. They played against Azorius in the finals, so this is your pretty much stock control deck, but notably they opted for a lot more counter-based and even just stuff like Cast Out in here. Fewer direct removal spells that they were able to kind of sneak through a lot of the Greasefang players. This player had like some of the best draws I've ever seen. Just always like settle, like last card, settle the wreckage. So we had some Greasefangs. The top 8 was actually 3 copies of Greasefang. Mono Green Aggro lists, Mono Blue Spirits, Azorius Control, Mono Green Planeswalkers, and 1 Rakdos Midrange coming in. And you can kind of go down, you can see all the different variations. There was a Teamer Marvel deck that had 5-2 record, using Aetherworks Marvel to cheat out Ugin the Spirit Dragon or Ulamog, stuff like that. So that was pretty sweet. So if you want to check it out, there's all these lists here. Like I said, if you want to see gameplay, it'll be up on my channel. And then if you want to join in more events, you can always kind of tune in. The next Explorer one will be 11/20, but he does a bunch of different tournaments throughout the month. It's all on his page. So like this tournament here, I think was 250 cash. They vary, but they're usually at least 100 to 250 in terms of cash. So I'm going to wrap it up for the week. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.